Hey everyone, welcome back to another video from A Man Talks FPL SC. In today's video we're going through my Game Week 4 early team selection as we are in the international break. We still have a couple of weeks until the Game Week 4 deadline, so I'll just take you through my early team selection and some of the transfer thoughts that I've got over the international break, whether or not you should play your wildcard. I am thinking about potentially playing the wildcard as well. At the end of the video I'll also go through a wildcard draft that I'm potentially thinking of, and just my general thoughts about whether I actually need to play the wildcard or maybe I can stick with the current team as it is. So if you enjoy the video, as always, really appreciate a thumbs up. Do please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get into the video. So a quick review of how I went in Game Week 3. I scored 66 points, which I was pretty happy with, pretty solid score, still ranked overall in the top 500k. That 66 point score was a Game Week 3 rank of 1.3 million, so not too bad as well. Really got the bulk of my points from three players in Antonio, who had a goal and assist, again looking on form with an 11 pointer. Mo Salah getting the penalty against Chelsea, so getting 10 points from him and full bonus points as well. And Heung-min Son scored 10 as my captain, so it multiplied into 2 into 20. I feel a bit fortunate with him, obviously he scored his goal coming off the free kick, but I'll happily take those points. And really apart from that, there weren't too many other returns if you look at the rest of my team. I mean, you've got Luke Shaw, who obviously got the clean sheet against Wolves, but Wolves again looked really dangerous, so pretty lucky, I would say, that Manchester United didn't concede a goal. The rest of the defenders didn't do too much. Sanchez only with a 2-pointer. Trent Alexander-Arnold did come in with 4 points, getting 2 bonus in that 1-1 game to Chelsea, so I'll take that as well. But Soufal and Ayling, only the 1 and the 2 points from them respectively, so not too many overall points coming from the defense. Apart from Salah and Son, we had Fernandes. We only had the 2 points from Fernandes in Game Week 3, so wasn't able to get us any major attacking returns. And Ben Rama, who I did bring in for Buendia, only the 2-pointer from him. Obviously makes complete FPL sense that Buendia, the minute I trade him out, goes and gets 10 points scoring a goal against Brentford, but we live with the decision. Ben Rama has already gone up in price up to like 6.4, so I've actually made some value on him. And I think moving forward, obviously with Buendia now actually having to go to South America, he will miss Game Week 4, so I think it probably was the right decision to go for Ben Rama. And Tony as well also scored, getting his first goal of the Premier League season up against Aston Villa, so I was definitely happy to see a return from him, as he has already dropped in price once, and so I definitely wanted to see him get at least one return to hopefully stem the bleeding. So overall, not too bad of a week, scoring 66 points, and I'm still relatively happy with that overall ranking inside the top 500k moving into Game Week 4. Now coming into this game week as well, I have got 2 free transfers. I've currently got 0.4 mil in the bank, and the squad value's gone up a little bit to 100.5, mainly because of Mikel Antonio and Said Benrahma. In the defense currently, we've still got Robert Sanchez, not looking to make a trade there. Coming up against Brentford, who haven't been scoring too many goals, there is potentially some clean sheets on offer there. Trent Alexander-Arnold against Leeds, I would expect, to be honest, Leeds to score, because Liverpool defense has seemed to leak quite a few chances at times. They have just been saved by Alisson at the back there, but still obviously some attacking returns potentially for Trent Alexander-Arnold. He has created the most chances out of any defender in the game so far, so really can benefit from some good attacking returns against Leeds hopefully, and again 2 great fixtures after that in Crystal Palace and Brentford. Soufal as well, got a very good matchup against Southampton. West Ham do have a tendency to not really keep clean sheets. They tend to at least ship in like 1 or 2 goals, but he does present that attacking threat as well. Unlucky to not have gotten any more attacking returns. He obviously wasn't able to get an assist in Game Week 1 when Antonio missed that sitter from him, so he could be on a little bit higher total points. So I'm happy enough with Soufal as well coming into Game Week 3. And Luke Shaw as well, plum fixture against Newcastle. It definitely looks like there could potentially be some attacking returns for Shaw, as well as maybe on the defensive end as well. Although Newcastle don't have the worst attack overall with Callum Wilson up the front there, it's still a great fixture to have Luke Shaw in this case. In midfield, we're able to play the full 5 here because we've got Mo Salah and Bruno Fernandes in great fixtures against Leeds and obviously Newcastle for Fernandes. Obviously the big talking point, I should have probably mentioned this at the beginning of the video, is Cristiano Ronaldo joining the Premier League and joining Manchester United. So obviously there's big question marks over Bruno Fernandes, whether he's a good FPL option or not moving forward. We will discuss that a little bit later in the video as we discuss some wildcard drafts. But definitely, if you'd expect Ronaldo to probably take penalties and most of the free kicks as well, in my opinion. We've already seen that Bruno hasn't really been on that many corners as well. That's mainly been Luke Shaw and also Mason Greenwood. Without that ability to get additional points from the penalties and the free kicks, it does spell some big question marks over Fernandes and whether you're paying 12 million for someone, because really at that price point you would be hoping that they're on some penalties. There are definitely big question marks about whether he's going to be staying in the side long term. In terms of the other midfielders, Heung-min Son, as I mentioned, got a little bit lucky last week against Watford, getting that goal from the free kick. Good matchup against Crystal Palace, although I am concerned because overall I wasn't too impressed by the Spurs attack. That's 3 1-0 wins. Obviously paying 10 mil for Son, I'd be hoping for some 2 or 3-0 games where he's able to get at least 2 attacking returns hopefully. Maybe I'm just being greedy, but I am a little bit concerned about Son moving forward. Obviously, game week 5 is a really tough fixture against Chelsea, so I don't expect Spurs to get anything really in that game. Although the problem with Son is that he typically does do well against the big teams because most of his threat comes from their counter-attack. But I think Chelsea is that good of a defence. I'm really not expecting many returns there. The problem with Son is that the fixtures after that, not too bad. I mean, Arsenal looking shambles in the back there. You've got Aston Villa, and then they've got Newcastle as well after that. So Son is a really interesting one. Whether I keep him in the team long term, again, probably get into that a little bit later in the video as well. Sahin Bedrama also got a great fixture against Southampton, and Smith Rowe got a very good fixture against Norwich this week. But I really wanted to hold him for the next 2 weeks where he's got Norwich and Burnley, and then probably would be better positioned to reassess whether, Arsenal is actually worth sticking my investment in, because at the moment they're just not looking good at all. But they have, you have to kind of contextualize, I think, the 3 opponents that they've played, and hopefully I don't sound too biased because I am an Arsenal fan, but I do want to try to be as objective as possible. Brentford, it was the first game in the Premier League for Brentford playing at home, so it was kind of a perfect storm for them to be able to target Arsenal, and they did not look good in that game, Arsenal that is. Then they're versing the Champions League winners in Chelsea, so an extremely tough matchup, and then they're versing the Premier League winners in Man City, who honestly, come the second half, were in cruise control. They probably didn't want to batter Arsenal too much, but yet 5-0, again, massive defeat there for Arsenal, and the way that they're playing is not looking good, but I'm hopeful. Norwich is really the fixture I'm wanting to target, so I think Smith Rowe, to me, it would feel kind of a bit of a waste if I was to, not play him this week for this one particular matchup. So hopefully he can do the goods here for us as well. And finally, in the forward line, Mikel Antonio against Southampton, a great fixture. He's got 3 double-digit returns now in the bounce. His stats are amazing. Look, he's just not going anywhere in the team. Really happy I started with him to begin the season. Could potentially even be a captaincy shout this game week as well. But yeah, really happy with Antonio. And Ivan Toney obviously got his first goal of the season last week against Aston Villa. Got 2 okay fixtures coming up in Brighton and Wolves, although Brighton, we know, are a pretty decent defence, and Wolves haven't been too bad at the back either. And then he goes into Liverpool and West Ham, so Toney is looking like he's got some tough fixtures coming up. You could potentially hold for maybe another 1 to 2 weeks, but he is also someone I'm looking to potentially move on, because there are a lot of good forward options. Obviously Ronaldo, someone we're going to have to think about, Romelu Lukaku, Patrick Bamford, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. There's so many good forwards that we can consider. That Toney, I think, is definitely someone I'm looking at potentially moving on in the next few weeks, or even potentially in this game week as well. So that's how the team is shaping up for the time being without any transfers made. In terms of the captaincy and vice captaincy, I'd probably lean to potentially Mo Salah captaincy for the time being, given that Leeds tend to be quite a bit open at the back, especially against the bigger teams. He did score a hat-trick against them last season. Obviously, we'll probably look into the stats a little bit more about the defence that they are playing, because Newcastle, I think, have conceded the greatest amount of XG to all opponents so far, so that could be good news for a Manchester United asset like Bruno Fernandes. But if we're expecting Ronaldo to come into that game week 4 team, Fernandes might be off penalties, and he might not be the best captaincy shout, which is why I've gone for Mo Salah for the time being. But this is how we're setting up without any transfers made. Now in the next part of the video, I will get into, I'll show you my team on the actual Premier League page. I'll kind of walk you through my transfer thoughts at the moment, and potentially what kind of wildcard draft I might go into for game week 4 if I decide to pull the trigger this game week. Alright guys, so this is my team as it stands. We've got 2 free transfers, and I've got 0.4 mil in the bank. And just looking at the team, I mean, overall, as you saw in the team selection, it's not looking too bad this week. No player has really got a tough fixture, but 2 free transfers. Obviously, we would be looking to use at least one of the 2. And obviously, the big question mark is Cristiano Ronaldo. Do I want him for game week 4? My thoughts are, I think I'm probably going to want to jump on the bandwagon. At the time of recording, his price point has not actually been revealed yet, but I have a feeling he's probably going to be coming in at around 12.5. And I think having a premium forward slot moving forward is going to be really valuable, because you've got obviously Ronaldo, and then you've got Lukaku from game week 7 who's got really, really good fixtures. Obviously you've got Harry Kane, who's definitely going to be a factor for the rest of the season. And so I think shifting some funds and getting one premium forward is probably how I'm going to look to restructure the team with the 2 free transfers. Obviously this is always going to be dependent on potential news about Ronaldo, whether he's going to potentially start, or if he's maybe going to be coming off the bench from game week 4. But my first thoughts were, if I want to get in Cristiano Ronaldo, it would probably be at the expense of Bruno Fernandes. Now, the reason why I would probably consider dropping Bruno Fernandes instead of Mo Salah is that I still think that Mo Salah has got really good fixtures coming up, and I definitely would be looking to captain him in the next few game weeks. So if we have a quick look at the fixtures there. So he's got Leeds this coming game week, and then he's got Crystal Palace and Brentford. 2 fixtures I could very easily captain him. Then he's got Man City, but then he's got Watford again, Man United, Brighton. So overall, the run for Liverpool is not too bad moving forward for the long term. So I think Salah is definitely one of those guys where I can just stick, set and forget in my team for the foreseeable future. So let's say if I want to get Cristiano Ronaldo, and I'd probably do it for Ivan Toney, who, as I mentioned, has got some tough fixtures moving forward. As you can see there, Brighton and Wolves not too bad, but then he gets into a really tough run with Liverpool, West Ham, Chelsea, Leicester. Definitely some fixtures that I don't think I'd be wanting to have Ivan Toney in. We'll just put in Harry Kane for now, just pretending that he is Cristiano Ronaldo, because I expect Ronaldo to come in at the same price or very similar price to Kane. So Kane is in there now, so I need to make up 5.5 mil, and so Bruno Fernandes would probably be the one to make way. Now it says I have 6.5 mil in the bank, but obviously if I think Ronaldo's coming in at 12.5, I'll have to take away 0.2, so I have to kind of make up 6.3, which is a bit of an awkward price range. Obviously, if I had 6.5 to play with, I probably would go for Rafinha, but in this particular setup, I'd have to go for like a 6 mil midfielder. And so one I have been thinking about is potentially maybe a Jack Harrison, who's got very good fixtures from game week 5, but then he has got Liverpool in game week 4. So instead, I was looking at potentially two options in either maybe a Sarr from Watford or maybe even a Traore from Wolves. So if I'm just bringing up Sarr's fixtures here, the next 4 game weeks are pretty strong. You know, you got Wolves, Norwich, Newcastle, and Leeds, and that actually looks really, really good up until game week 7 and 8, which is probably when I'd be looking to potentially play my wildcard. So he could actually be a good short-term play with good fixtures for the next few weeks. And so if I wanted to potentially do that to fund Cristiano Ronaldo, I could go for a Sarr from Watford. That leaves 0.5 in the bank, which hopefully does help flex around getting in Cristiano Ronaldo. Those would be my 2 free transfers for the week. And the team would still be looking pretty good. You know, the 5 midfielders there all have got great fixtures, and I'd probably have a potentially better captain option than Bruno in Cristiano Ronaldo, or I could still stick with Mo Salah, as I previously mentioned. Instead of Sarr, I could also go for a Traore from Wolves. So I've just added him in there. So if we just take a look at Wolves fixtures as well, they've got a really, really strong fixture run from game week 4 onwards. You've got Watford, Brentford, Southampton, Newcastle, Villa, Leeds, Everton could be a bit of a tougher matchup, but then you've got Crystal Palace, West Ham, Norwich, Burnley. So it's a really, really strong run for any Wolves players. He's looked really, really threatening as well. You can see that obviously he's very low, owned at 1.5%, so he would be a really strong differential. So he's also someone I am potentially considering as well. The problem with him though is that he's got great XG, he's gotten great chances so far to begin the season, he just hasn't been able to finish them off, and so he would be a very frustrating own, that is for sure. So I'm potentially maybe looking at going with a Sarr instead, just to capitalise on that short-term punt, and then come game week 7 or 8 when I look to wildcard, I can then potentially move off him. So those could be 2 very easy free transfers to be able to get in Cristiano Ronaldo and still maintain a pretty decent team. As you saw in the team selection, most of my players had pretty good fixtures for this game week. Now, if I was looking to potentially play my wild card, there are a few things that I probably would change up in this squad for sure. If I think about players that I probably would like to have, maybe like a Dominic Calvert-Lewin or a Patrick Bamford, because Leeds do go into a very good fixture run from game week 5, and Calvert-Lewin has got 3 goals on the bounce already. Yes, 2 of them were penalties, but his XG has been very, very strong. It's very clear that the Everton game plan is to feed him the ball as much as they can for him to finish off the chances. Everton's short-term fixtures are also, again, very, very good. So if I were to bring in Calvert-Lewin, I could potentially do it for Perica and maybe switch to a 3-4-3, given that I think there are definitely good value in the forward line, especially around that 7.5 to 8 mil price range. If I was to bring in Calvert-Lewin here, then we need to make up 3.2 mil in the bank. And so looking at the team, I'd be thinking, where could I maybe take the money out from? To be honest, Mo Salah is not really going to be leaving the team in my opinion. Son is definitely someone I have potentially been considering as whether I should be keeping him moving forward, because I haven't been too impressed by Spurs' overall attack. If I do decide to take out Son to make up that money, it'd be 6.8 million. Although actually, sorry, we should also factor in the Cristiano Ronaldo extra 0.2, so it should be around 6.5. So someone like Rafinha could be perfect, because from game week 5, Leeds have got really, really good fixtures. So we just add in Rafinha there. If we also look at their fixtures from game week 5, as I mentioned, they're really, really strong. Leeds is definitely a team that I would look to be considering to get in from game week 5. So you've got Newcastle, West Ham, Watford, Southampton, Wolves, and Norwich. That's a great 5-game run that I'd probably want him in for. Now the issue here is, I guess I've got 8 attackers. You know, I've got Smith Rowe, Salah, Sarr, Rafinha, Benrahma, but also what would be Ronaldo, Calvert-Lewin, and Antonio. So I probably would look to drop one of the midfielders down to a 4.5 million. So, you know, Smith Rowe, if say he doesn't look the goods anymore, if I decide, you know what, stuff it, I'm just not going to have him in the team anymore, I could take him out and drop him down to like a 4.5. Any 4.5 will do. We'll just go for maybe Gilmore from Norwich, because we do know that he is playing. That leaves around an extra 1 mil in the bank. Now, someone who I'm potentially interested in is also Diogo Jota, because Firmino did obviously pick up a hamstring injury in that game against Chelsea. I think we haven't quite got the news yet on how long that injury is going to be for, but if it's for more than, like, say, a month, as we saw with Salah, the next 3 fixtures, Leeds, Crystal Palace and Brentford, I think it were, that's 3 great fixtures, and Jota at 7.5, 7.6 million, he could be insane value in my opinion. He always posts really, really good XG stats, so he would definitely be someone I'd be considering. And if we do get confirmation of that news, he may force my hand in potentially playing a wild card, because he could be a very attractive option with Liverpool's fixtures. If I did actually want to bring him into the team, I could do it instead for maybe a Sarr. So I could get him in there. Obviously I'm 0.4 short, and I've got too many players from Liverpool because I still actually have Tsimikas. So Tsimikas definitely has to go then in that case as well. I could go to any 4.0. Brandon Williams did play for Norwich, but Livramento from Southampton, he's not 4.0 anymore, he's 4.1, but he looked really, really good last week against Newcastle. He had created one big chance, and his heat map is crazy. He actually spent more time in the opposition half than his own half. So he's definitely someone I would be considering as well. Now again, that doesn't change how much money I actually need to create to be able to afford the team. Now Luke Shaw is definitely also someone I'm considering. Maybe would I hold on to him moving forward. I mean, United have got good fixtures for the next few weeks, but if I'm playing a wildcard, I do want to be looking a bit more long term as well. So Wolves have got really, really good fixtures, as I mentioned, from game week 4 to 14. So I could drop down some value and go to like a Wolves defender, or I may want to target one of the better teams like Chelsea or a Man City. Chelsea have great fixtures from game week 7. Maybe doing a swap to like a Rudiger, who looks pretty nailed on actually for the Chelsea defense, and he's at 5.5 million, so it could be good value. So I'll just add him in there, and if I just take a look at those fixtures from game week 7, it's a really, really great run. You know, Southampton, Brentford, Norwich, Newcastle, Burnley, Leicester. That's a great run. He's even got Aston Villa in game week 4. Tottenham and Man City in the next few weeks is tough, but to be honest, Chelsea are that good of a defence that they could very easily keep a clean sheet, if not one, both of those games potentially. So I'm more than happy to bring in a Chelsea defender this week if I need to. And so again, still need to create 0.4 mil. So this is where you could look to maybe drop down like a Soufal or a Luke Ayling. Soufal I wouldn't mind keeping because he's got some good attacking potential, and West Ham's long-term fixtures aren't too bad, so I wouldn't mind him on a wild card. As you can see, it doesn't really get too tough up until about game week 11. Yes, they do have Man United in game week 5, but outside of that, Southampton, Leeds, Brentford, Everton, Tottenham, Aston Villa, that's not a horrible run. So yes, I wouldn't expect all the clean sheets, but it could be an okay option and definitely some scope for some attacking returns there. It's really when he gets to game week 13, when he gets Man City, Chelsea, all in the next few fixtures, is when I may potentially look to move off him. But for the long term on a wildcard, I think he could be an okay hold. So instead, I could drop Luke Ayling. Yes, Leeds have got great fixtures, but the Leeds defense isn't all that hot, and so I could easily sacrifice Luke Ayling. And so then I would need to create 4.1 million. The only downside I've just realized though is that trying to get to Ronaldo at 12.5, I'd actually need to spend 3.9. So in that case, I probably would have to maybe drop Soufal. One player I have considered is actually Semedo from Wolves, who's looked pretty attacking and obviously amazing fixtures moving forward. So if I get in Semedo, then 4.2, that'd put me right on the cusp, to be honest, of having to get a 4.0. So if I were to get, say, potentially Brandon Williams from Norwich, who I mentioned, that now leaves 0.2 in the bank, which would hopefully bridge that gap between Kane to Cristiano Ronaldo if he does come in at 12.5. That was a very long-winded explanation, but I think that's a pretty good wildcard draft. Obviously, goalkeeper, I haven't really thought about too much. Sanchez, the fixtures for Brighton are still okay up until game week 8, but yes, he's not an ideal play, so that's definitely something to think about as well in this wildcard. If I would maybe drop money down, say instead of getting for Rudiger, if I kept Soufal, that would free up 0.5 mil, and I could potentially get to that 5 mil goalkeeper bracket, which I don't think is actually a bad price bracket to be going to. If we just have a quick look here, if we look at the goalkeepers with a price of 5 million, there's not too many bad options with good fixture runs coming up. We've got obviously the guy from Wolves, Sarr, I think his name is. He's at 5 mil, great fixtures moving forward. Obviously Meslier from Leeds, obviously can rack up quite a few save points, given Leeds like to concede quite a few shots. There definitely is scope to maybe even change the goalkeeper, but for the time being, if we got news of potentially Jota was good to go for maybe the next month or even this next 6 weeks, he would definitely be someone I'd be very, very interested in holding for the wildcard. It would be a 3-4-3 formation with Trent Alexander-Arnold, Rudiger and Semedo as my 3 primary defenders, and Livramento could be on the bench there. 4 pretty good midfielders in Salah, Jota, Rafinha and Benrahma, and then obviously 3 amazing forwards in Ronaldo, Calvert-Lewin and Antonio, and that would also provide some good structure to the squad. From game week 7, you could very easily swap from a Ronaldo to a Lukaku because Manchester United's fixtures do get a bit tougher from game week 7. Jota at that price point of 7.6, again from game week 7, if you're looking to really jump on Chelsea assets, you could very easily switch to a Mason Mount at 7.5, or with that extra mil created from Ronaldo to Lukaku, you could very easily go to a Kai Havertz as well. So it's a good squad in that you can chop and change a lot of the price points to get to the teams with the good fixture runs. And from that point on as well, you could think about maybe trying to get in some Manchester City players as well, like a Ruben Dias or maybe a Ferran Torres as well, who's very popular, although he is obviously sometimes going to be a rotation risk, especially with more Champions League games coming up. So anyway, I'll end the video there. That's a wildcard draft I have thought about, and I think it's not too bad. You cover some good teams, and so I think if you are looking to pull a Game Week 4 wildcard, I would probably get very, very close to setting up my team similar to this. So hopefully this gives you some food for thought as to maybe if you like the draft and if you're willing to maybe play it on your own team. So let me know in the comments below if you are looking to wildcard this week. But overall, if you enjoy the video, as always, really appreciate a thumbs up. Do please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next video.